Good evening and welcome to Parliamentary News, reaching you from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. I am John Yaku and we are glad to have you join us. On the headlines, more legislators undergo training as constituents set agenda ahead of proclamation of the 10th National Assembly.
We're preparing them to learn, to be patient, to learn dialogue, to learn to represent the people well.
House of Representatives backs President Tinubu's pronouncement on subsidy removal.
We wish this new administration good luck, all the best. We are all very hopeful.
Plus, Benue State House of Assembly passes bill for the maintenance of former governors. To enthrone good governance and deepen democratic tenets, lawmakers are expected to strategize within the ambit of the law, exercise checks and balances on other arms, but not without synergy with the executive, as this will curtail corruption in the society. This charge came on the heels of the training organized by the Cross River State House of Assembly to get incoming lawmakers acquainted with legislative matters. Justina Etim reports.
Few days to the inauguration of members of its 10th legislature, the Cross River State House of Assembly is exposing incoming members to the nitty-gritty in lawmaking to build their capacity for effective service delivery. The Speaker, Cross River State House of Assembly, Eteng Williams, recounts achievements of the 9th legislature, urging the new lawmakers to do more.
We're preparing them to learn, to be patient, to learn dialogue, to learn to represent the people well.
To avert autocratic governance, resource persons say lawmakers must be abreast with the Constitution and utilize the power vested in them to enact laws that will benefit the common man and assuage the yearnings of the people.
We know the law has said there should be separation of powers, but the element of fusion that we have, they should use it for the interest of society at large. They should be able to understand themselves with the executive arm. They should be able to sit on the dialogue table so that things will move for the society.
When they come in, they are bound to be in most of these committees that perform oversight functions in the House. And so by the time they go out to perform their duty, they need to equip themselves with the Constitution, the financial regulation.
The new lawmakers are sure of effective representation.
And it becomes very important that we have a new House of 21 new members. If you put in literate terms, you say 21 illiterate in legislation. So it's a big tax, so they need to educate them.
What I am trying to do is to make sure that the voice of the people and the yearnings of the people is brought to the floor, and not just brought to the floor, but it's also taken into account as projects are going up.
The end of this program, so much should be learned on the rules of the House of Assembly and the standing orders therein.
The new lawmakers are equally tasked to utilize their position to attract development to their various constituencies. In Calabar, Justina Etim, NTA News.
Ahead of the proclamation of the 10th National Assembly, the spotlight beams on the 9th Assembly, which is credited with passing the highest number of bills since Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999. As of May 2023, it has passed more than 170 bills. Ignatius Nko tells us the critical areas the 10th Assembly should pay attention to.
Lawmaking, representation and oversight, three major functions of the legislature in a liberal democracy. Nigeria, being a democracy in transition, is still grappling with the institutionalization of the legislative arm of government, severally truncated by military interventions. That in itself was a major drawback on Nigeria's legislature. However, the various legislative assemblies from 1999 to date have impacted on the nation's democratic journey. The 9th Assembly was conscious of the effect of a conflictual relationship between it and the executive and worked towards ensuring a cordial working relationship, which it believes yielded dividends.
We decided right from the beginning that we need serious synergy, partnership, and cooperation between the two arms of government. This essence of electing the executive and the legislature is to bring the two arms together to work for the citizens.
The 9th Assembly enacted a number of critical legislations, which included the Petroleum Industry Bill, Onshore-Offshore Dichotomy Bill, Finance Bills, Companies and Allied Matters Act Amendment Bill, and of course, the return of annual budget to the January-December cycle. The Ninth Senate arguably scored low in legislative oversight, and that is one of the areas Nigerians say the 10th Senate should give significant attention to. There can't be an effective anti-corruption fight without parliamentary checks on the executive. Apart from ensuring prudence, it will also reduce cost of governance and improved revenue generation.
We are working with these committees. We're supporting the work that they're doing in carrying out oversight, in analyzing laws. When bills are referred for second reading to committees, if there are bills of interest to us that we believe are important to citizens, we engage with those committees to do analysis, to do reviews of the bills, to provide research and information, and in some cases help with organizing public hearings so that citizens can come into the legislature, come into the public hearings, and engage with the committees.
Nigerian women will be looking up to the next assembly to revisit and pass the various women empowerment bills which were jettisoned by the 9th Assembly. Nigerians are also expecting the 10th Senate to make significant interventions on national issues like security, health, and the economy. Amendment of the Electoral Act 2022 and the reconsideration of the Local Government Autonomy Alteration Bill are some of the legislative interventions also expected of the 10th Senate.
And so we believe that, and we do share support for the bill that says that you should create special seats for women. Two, we believe that local government, and I'm happy everyone is talking about it, even the president himself, has continued to emphasize the importance of local government reforms. So I think it's something that should happen, that local governments need to be given autonomy.
We have to do things differently. We have to talk to all the zones. We have to ask them, what do you want? We must provoke discussion and dialogue.
The National Assembly will continue to preach the gospel of autonomy of local government and lobby for it vigorously.
Now, if local governments are given the freedom to run as intended, I think things will be better because they are closer to the grassroots.
Nigerians expect that the 10th Senate should approach all issues with patriotism. There should be concerted efforts to bring about stability within the parliament itself, where national interest should override personal interest. Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
The second week of June 2023 will bring to life the 10th House of Representatives as President Tinubu will proclaim the new legislative session. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports on the task ahead of the 10th House of Representatives as the 9th House takes stock of its achievement in legislative interventions.
The COVID-19 pandemic that emerged in the early life of the 9th Assembly notwithstanding, the House of Representatives, dominated by experienced lawmakers, pushed on to implement its targeted agenda. It achieved a record of more than 2,000 bills introduced during the session, out of which more than 120 enjoyed presidential assent. This number is higher than other assemblies. Notable among them are the Petroleum Industry Act, the Police Reform Bill, the amended Electoral Act, the Deep Offshore, among other important ones. Interventions in the areas of security, education, economy, and other sectors also enjoyed the blessing of the legislators. A couple of days from now, a new leadership will emerge to preside over the 10th House, which for the first time has more members from the minority parties than the ruling party as the center. Also interesting is the percentage of returning members compared to new lawmakers, which is about 20% to 80%. Less than 70 returning House members will form membership of the 10th Assembly.
Experience is not gotten in the market. But then we'll do our best, those of us who have returned, to cooperate with our colleagues so that we'll do a teamwork in the interest of our own country.
So you're going to have, stormy debates on issues, which is healthy for our democracy.
The Nigerian people should be ready to see a difference in this 10th Assembly. We're here for business.
The tasking issues that await the 10th Assembly include autonomy for local governments and women inclusion.
There are unfinished businesses, including the unfinished business of making sure that our local governments work, the unfinished business of ensuring that we have more women sitting among senators and House members. The figures has worsened.
Our major concern will be to unite the country and also ensure we will bring development by God's grace.
The recent pronouncements by the president on ending oil subsidy may be the first major assignment. It is agreed that both executive and legislature must work together to achieve the new policy. Lamia Ali, NTA News.
With me in the studio to speak on the executive-legislature relationship in delivering quality dividends of democracy is former senior special assistant to former President Muhammadu Buhari on National Assembly matters, Senator Ita Enang. Senator, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Okay. Looking at our background report, what is your take on the president's inaugural speech, especially with reference to working with the legislature to review certain laws for economic growth?
I think His Excellency President Tinubu was on point on all the issues he raised. Beyond the speech and his take on working with the legislature, it was a very bold and courageous step for him to mention that subsidy is gone and Nigeria, let subsidy be gone. So having commended him, and let me also congratulate the Nigerian people for having a brand new president and presidency and having a very successful inauguration and transition to the 7th democracy process since 2019 or thereabout. So I congratulate Nigerians. On the working with the legislature, the president and the executive are to work together with the legislature, and their action against each other is to be checked by the judiciary as the judicial arm of government. And they are to work together to review the laws, to make policies, and to cause execution of policies, particularly on matters of revenue.
Okay. Now, drawing from your experience as a legislator and looking at the composition of the 10th National Assembly, what do you see playing out, specifically the relationship between the executive and the legislature?
I do not intend to say that they should have a very smooth relationship. I do not intend to say so, because I've always maintained that may a day never come where the legislature and the executive will work hands in gloves with each other. The people should be afraid. May that day never come. May it be a kind of relationship where the executive, through the ministers and the ministries, will conceive policies, and then they will pass that policies through the Federal Executive Council or the refining institution of Mr. President, and then send that policy to the legislature. One thing that the public and the legislature have failed to understand or have always misunderstood is that everything that comes from the executive, they think that Baba has approved. Baba wants it. You pass it in the way it is. No. What the president does is to send the bill or measure or a request to you as a raw material for you to pass, to consider, and pass as you think fit, or to consider and reject as you think fit. You are not to pass everything.
Having been on both sides of the divide, what would you tell the incoming lawmakers for the benefit of Nigerians?
What I want to tell them is what I've told them first, that when the president sends any matter to you, it is not for you to pass. It is for you to consider and pass as you think fit. It is for you to exert your intellectual capacity. It is for you to look at the books. Now, what I expect them to do is to improve on what the 8th and 9th Assembly have done. I want to apologize to them. And the apology is on the fact that I am going to say, and I say with greatest respect to them, that they have not exhibited intellectualism. The members of the public are watching. How many times have you, when considering a bill, looked at the source of the law which is sought to be amended. I want to say that most of the things that comes to the legislature, most of the requests for loans are syndicated by commercial agents, and commercial agents who say, look, I am close to this institution. They are willing to offer you this facility. They're not interested in what your country is owing and what is not owing. When the president has that, looking at the debt management office will consider, pass it to the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance will pass it to Mr. President. Mr. President may or may not lay it before the Federal Executive Council. He may send it to the legislature. He sends it to the legislature thinking that the legislature is made up of all men of the country. They will say yes or no. Now, when you consider that $800 million loan, assemblymen, 9th Assembly, did you ask, how will we pay it back? What source are we investing in? Which will be the source of repaying the loan? Because to take a loan, it's the source that you gave the loan to finance that should pay back the loan. I thought that the legislature would have said, look, don't give us loan for the purpose of sharing to Nigerians, to comfort them, to take the pain. But let us take the loan and develop small-scale modular refineries that will that will refine in small quantity in small local areas where we don't need to do a lot of transportation. We don't need a lot of pipelines. We would have asked for loan for the purpose of improving the capacity of Nigerians in refining. You would have asked for loan for the purpose of expanding the frontiers exploration capacity to the Cross River Basin and to the Akwa Ibom Basin and to the Utan Basin and all other areas. You would have approved, you would have said, look, we don't need loan for the purpose of palliatives. We need loan for this. And so on. And of course, when you consider the petroleum industry bill, I did not see intellectualism. I apologize again to you. And so I'm telling the incoming National Assembly that it is the things that you consider and pass that the Federal High Court, that the Court of Appeal, that the Supreme Court, sitting as 5-member panel, or when it's a constitutional matter, sitting as 7-member justices of the Court of Appeal, will sit and say, what did the legislature say? What did the legislature intend? And if they do not find what you intended in any particular legislation, they are supposed to come and look at the Hansards. They're supposed to come and look at the vote and proceedings. They're supposed to look at the verbatim recording and say, look, let us see the argument. So since the text of the law is not explicit on what they want, to see the intendment of the legislature in passing this so that we can give appropriate judgment on the matter that has arisen. If they come to take the votes and proceedings that the verbatim recording or the Hansard, will they see the argument and intellectualism that you exhibited in the debates of that bill? It is not enough for the presiding officer to say, clause 1 to 15 passed, clause 16 to 20 passed. It is nauseating members of the public. So if the 9th or the 10th Assembly coming in, please come in as legislators. You don't need to be a lawyer. If you're an engineer, be the best of engineers. You're a doctor. Matters will arise in that field. You are in any particular field. You are from different field. Bring in your intellect and your experience, okay, and add to the debate on that bill, and you bring out the best laws.
On that note, we would like to thank you very much for coming to our studio. We'll find time to bring you again to enlighten us on some of these issues affecting the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We will take a break, and when we return, bid to reinvent agriculture in Oyo State, get support of lawmakers. Details of this and more when the news returns. Don't go away.
NTA Parliament is a dedicated 24-hour channel that broadcasts the activities of the Nigerian Senate, Federal House of Representatives, and all the 36 state houses of assembly. NTA Parliament, strengthening Nigeria's democracy.
Welcome back. The House of Representatives has moved a motion in support of the pronouncement of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on removal of subsidy, appealing to Nigerians to be patient, resilient, and prayerful to enable the present administration fulfill its promises. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the issue was raised as a matter of public importance during Tuesday plenary.
This is the first plenary after the presidential inauguration. House members, in reference to the inaugural address of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, noted that funds hitherto used for subsidy will be channeled for reforms in education, health, agriculture, security, and infrastructural developments. They believe legislative support to the policy will go a long way in enhancing development and delivering the dividends of democracy to citizens across the country.
Is a concerned senior citizens whose agenda is to favor the downtrodden for the purpose of humanity, to salute his courage and boldness to serve our country, Nigeria, with honesty and integrity.
We wish this new administration good luck, all the best. We are all very hopeful. We believe that it's a new dawn in Nigeria. Congratulations to each and every one of us.
The House has, as recommended by the Committee on AIDS, Loans and Debt Management, approved federal government's request to reimburse 16.7 billion naira by issuance of promissory notes to Borno State government
for project executed on behalf of the federal government.
Meanwhile, the House has considered and approved an amendment of the National Assembly Library Trust Fund to provide additional source of fund for the management of the library and build capacity of lawmakers and staff of the legislature. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Oyo State College of Agriculture and Technology Amendment B 2021 has passed third reading at Tuesday plenary of the State House of Assembly. Correspondent Oyeyinka Omole brings us details of the proceedings.
The bill, which seeks amendments to the law that established Oyo State College of Agriculture and Technology, inserted a clause to the 45 clauses contained in the original law concerning the criteria for the appointment of rector for the institution and other principal officers, among other amendments. The Joint Committee on Education and Agriculture had considered the bill and presented its recommendations before the House. The bill was read the third time after the approval of the Committee of the Whole House, chaired by the Speaker, Adebo Ogundoyin.
Oyo State College of Agriculture and Technology Bill 2023 is read the third time.
Before adjournment of the plenary to Thursday, 1st June 2023, the House, through the Majority Leader, congratulated the people of Oyo State for the successful takeoff of Governor Seyi Makinde's second time in office and the swearing-in of President Bola Tinubu as 16th President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
For almost 90 years, because this is the first time ever, that a politician will become the president of this country. As I'm correct.
In Ibadan, Oyeyinka Omole, NTA News.
A bill for an act to make provision for the maintenance of former elected governors of the state and their deputies has been passed by the Benue State House of Assembly. Blessing Umeche-Ebute has details.
The bill, which sought rewards for the elected governors and deputies after leaving office, was passed in the Committee of a Whole after a clause-by-clause consideration. It makes provisions for monthly payment to the former governors and deputies equivalent to the basic salary of a serving governor and deputy, a maintenance allowance of 25 million naira to former governors and 15 million naira to deputies every 4 years, as well as 2 official sports utility vehicles for former governors and 1 for deputies. Some demands in the original bill were reduced, while a request for a residential permanent accommodation in any town was removed. In a lead debate, Chairman House Standing Committee on Appointments, Public Service and Pension Matters, Geoffrey Agbate, presented findings of the committee to the House.
After an intense and careful scrutiny of the bill,
The committee made amendment as contained in Annexure B. Mr. Chairman, that is our finding.
The clerk of the House, Bernard Nule, accordingly read the bill for the third time and it was passed.
For the maintenance of former elected governors of the state and their deputies and for other matters connected thereto, after being read by the clerk of the House for the third time, is hereby passed into law.
Speaker Titus Uba thanked members for speedy passage of the bill. From the Assembly, Blessing Omeche Ebute, NTA News.
And on a sad note, the Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, has described the death of the founder and chairman, DAR Communications, Chief Raymond Dukwesi, as a great loss to the nation. The DG, in his condolence message, describes Raymond Dukwesi as a prominent figure in the media industry and his contributions, which have left a lasting legacy in the history of Nigerian media industry, cannot be overlooked. He praised God to console the family and the entire staff of AIT and Ray Power FM. That's the much we can take on the news. Do join us on parliamentary programs on other stations scrolling on your screen.